we're at the tail end of this pandemic and it just keeps going on and on and on. How is the office changing during this time period? And what changes are going to be permanent?
Yeah, it's a that's a target that nobody's hit perfectly yet. But I'll tell you some things that I've discovered in recent interviews. A
Hmm.
lot of people are, closing satellite offices, and they're downsizing their headquarters offices.
Right.
As a part of that, they're also eliminating some private offices, and some
Hmm.
large private offices are downsizing also. So,
Wow.
that dream of the corner office is probably
Right.
not as relevant any longer as it used to be. There's a good portion of people that will remain remote going forward who didn't have that possibility previously. A lot of people will be in a hybrid mode.
Hmm.
The insides of offices are changing, so they're taking a lot of the space that they're reducing from private offices and turning it into things like auditoriums
Hmm.
and multiple meeting rooms,
Wow.
that will fit whole departments and whole workplace audiences, like an auditorium, right? So that they
Yeah.
can have more periodic and more powerful get-togethers on an infrequent basis, because they've kind of learned how to do that. It's been forced on
Right.
them from a virtual perspective, but they also see some power on that. Now, the
Hmm.
downside, which there's always an upside and a downside, right,
Yeah.
is that some people feel that it's going to limit their ability to collaborate and
Right.
to sort of create things on the fly when they're not really with each other all the time. Yeah, I think I'm a little older, he says.
Hmm.
So I really kind of like that, management by walking around. I can tell you my people that I have worked with and worked for love that feeling of I can just pop into your office, and give you something to do or ask your opinion about something. And it's a much easier way. I can tell you that one of the guys that I
Instead of
like to
sending an
talk to,
email that can be misinterpreted, and next thing you know, you're having a call with HR.
misinterpreted, or it's a lot easier to ignore me if you have to answer my virtual Teams call, right?
Right. Right.
So,
Right.
and so because I feel like sometimes some people that used to be available to me with just three steps across the hallway are now difficult to locate, right? In that sense.
Yeah, one other complaint to that same string of what you're saying is also to, especially with younger workers, that it's going to be harder for them to advance their careers. I've seen that on Forbes, I've seen it on HBR, and I've tweeted back on both of those articles. I've actually tweeted the actual writer, like, hey, this is false fears. If you really believe in that, or they also brought in office politics dynamics, stuff like that, then it's like, do you really want to be working in a place like that anyways?
Yeah.
So I don't believe in it. I think there could be, because nothing can replace a personal touch. Personal touch is critical. It is important. Like you were just saying, you need to have a certain degree of that. I think what needs to happen is there needs to be a measuring stick as far as how much virtual versus how much in together. I could tell you, and I've said this many times on our show, the region that I manage, the Northeast region, has since day one, we've been a virtual team. We've always been virtual. We've spread out throughout the Northeast. And this is pre pandemic. And we haven't had issues. I've had plenty of people that got promoted within the company to different roles. I have many people that got promoted within my region to management roles inside of my region. So it has not held them back. And that's where I think that it comes out of a false fear, and ultimately, it comes down to the corporate culture of whether or not these are actually issues and challenges with working remotely or not. What's your take on
Yeah.
that? That's a lot
Well, I
there.
think it may be a false fear to some degree, but there's also a lot of people, and this is a concern that many of my
Hmm.
friends in industry have. They're all seeing people moving in and out of their organizations at a more rapid pace than ever before. And part of it is, I think, the opportunity for advancement is seen as being elsewhere,
Hmm.
because as you were just saying, David, when people are away from one another, they have a sense of isolation, and they don't know, they can't
And
perceive, they can't see the next step up, and
and
so
that's
they
where
often are moving out to get up.
I have a rebuttal to that as well too. And that is we have an aging workforce. People that are probably, I'd say within 5, maybe 10 years max older than me. And I'm 38. So I'd say 50 younger, maybe 45 is the bridge. I don't know. It's somewhere between 45 and 50. They're used to jumping. That generation above them, they worked those jobs for 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years. They were used to, being frowned upon. Oh, you worked at a job for a year and a half and then you left for someone else, whereas when you get, I think this, again, the line somewhere between 45 and 50 is where the job jumping. Now, usually a year, I think, is still a little early. It's somewhere between probably 2 to 3 years, I think, is the average time. And I think the pandemic has compressed it to where it's more 18 to 30 months on the time frame that someone's going to go to a workplace, do their job, get their experience, earn their money, and then take a much higher paying job elsewhere. I think that's what is being missed in the discussion, that job jumping has been a trend that has gone on throughout my whole life, and I'm an old millennial.
You're on to the right number there, which is about 18 months. In my own research, that's really what it looks like to me, is that, a college graduate gets out of college, they join a company, the company invests a lot in them, brings them up to speed, and many of them leave after 18 months to take what they learned to take it someplace else. And they get
Mhm.
more money by doing that than they would if they stayed and waited for a promotion.